Hello and welcome to another Redback's how-to video. The subject of this video is observation spying. So what do we mean with this term? Well, observation spying means that we will, in specific points in time, check specific condition against observations of specific features, and if these conditions are met, we are going to take some defined actions. So just let's have a look to our Redback's client and let's go one step deeper here. We see here we have the feature browser on the right side, and we see that we have three features of type meteorological situation, and we have one group. Now let's assume that we would like to set up observation spying definition. What is the term of the technical term of what we are talking about? Observation spying definition for all three of these features, and we would like to monitor the observations of these features for specific value of one property, and if this value is reached, we would like to have some specific action. So as we would like to have all these observations of all the three features being watched, being spied, I would suggest to build a group, what I have done already here. And this group, if we have a look at this group, we will see the group, of course, we know already, doesn't have any observations itself. The group is just a feature which helps us to organize features, but it has member features, and if you see here right now, I prepared already these three features we are talking about are member features of our group, Met Group 1. So if you would like to set up a spying definitions on all these three features right now, we put the group, put these features as member features of this group, and now we're working with this group right now. We're starting with feature directives. This is to be found in the context menu of our Met Group 1 feature, and if we press it, we have the possibility to add some feature directives. Until now we have three different types of feature directives. If you open up the plus button here, you will find we have the possibility here to assign some approval template. We have the possibility to make some observation planning to see if the done observations meet our expectations, and on first place we have the possibility to add an observation spying definition, and this is what we are going to do right now. We would like to make observation spying definition for all the member features of our Met Group 1 feature, which actually we are working on right now, and we know already that the member features of this group feature are these three meteorological situation features which are subject of our interest. So now let's just press this first menu item, and we will be served with a new interface which gives us the possibility to define what actually we want to spy on this feature. Well, I was talking about that we have to define a specific time, a specific point in time, and at this point in time the observations are going to be checked against conditions. Now the point in time we see here on the bottom of this first window. Point in time means that actually they call it trigger here. Are these conditions checked on creation and modification on observations, or do you only want creation to be the point in time where these conditions are going to be checked, or only modifications observations? So we see here we do not have a fixed schedule, because this is not necessary actually, because why should I check every 5 minutes or so if the observation does not change? This doesn't make sense. This only needs some CPU time and resources. So a better idea is like we did it right now here. We have the possibility to check the conditions on creation of observations or on modifications on observations. So whenever there are changes of data, we are going to check our conditions which we are going to define afterwards. So in our case, I would say both is interesting. I would like to have new observations being checked, and also if an existing observation will be modified, I would like to have these conditions checked against the observation which has been changed so far. So I will select the third option. I also should give this spying definition a name. I will just call it metdef01, whatever, doesn't matter right now for our test case. And then let's have a look to the first part of our window right here, which is the applicability rule, which means actually which features do I want to be subject of observation, so which observations should be checked by the spying definitions. So right now I have set up this definition to be a definition of the feature met group 01. This feature has some member features, so I have here some possibilities to define. I could check the first option, which means that only this feature, only met group 01, would be subject of this spying definition. Well, we know already that this will not make much sense, because a group feature does not have observations, and therefore they can't be created or modified, and therefore this definition would never be executed. So we know that actually, if you see also the feature and the member feature, well, would work so far, but would not be the best idea, because the feature does not have to be checked because there are no observations. So the second option would be the best fitting option in our case. Only the member features of our feature met group 1 will be subject of this spying definition. Of course, we should check this option and make this spying definition active. If we don't need it anymore for some later time, we can just switch it off here by deactivating the switch, and then afterwards, if we need it again, just switch it on again, so we don't have to delete and recreate the spying definitions every time. We can just activate and deactivate them as we need it. We have here a possibility to add some naming filter. So if I would just like one feature to be subject of our spying definition here, then I just put in the name filter. I just could also use some asterisks. In our case, I don't need a name filter. I will just take any features of which will pass through my filter here. And one thing I have to do is the next one, which is the feature type. As we know already, I've told you already that in the next step we are going to define conditions which will check observations against these conditions. So we have to have observations, and the observations, we know the structure of observations are properties, and the properties then will have values, and we can check these values only, of course. And so the property structure has to be known for defining the conditions actually. And therefore we have to define a feature type here, so the system knows which feature type we are talking about, and therefore knows which observation structure, which property structure will be given and will be the basis for our conditions in the next step. So I have to look up in the data domain and have to look up for our feature type, and here we have it. It is in the environmental folder, the meteorological situation feature type, and I just drag and drop it out of this data domain explorer here to my feature type area, and now I have defined this observation spying definition will be done for meteorological situation features only. So if I would have a group with different which contains different types of features, then I would of course have to set up a spying definition for every type of feature I have in my group. And this also makes sense because we know every feature type has different properties, of course, different property structure, and therefore of course it is a good idea, or it is actually a need, to set up one filter or one spying definition for every feature type, even if they're in one group. So if we had some subtypes, we could also filter for a subtype. This is, for example, done if we have some measurement points like we have in tunneling. No, I think it's in surveying. Usually you will have some subtypes for the 3D movements on profile features here, and then you could just take a subtype, and only these features of that subtype would then be subject. In our case, this is not necessary because we don't have any subtypes right here, so I just leave it blank. So now I could wonder what features actually would be subject of my definition so far, because you know a group could be quite complex, could have quite a big number of features, and together with this feature type and feature subtype and also this name filter, this gives quite a lot of options to make some error, make some mistake, and so it would be a good idea to just have a look what actually this filter will result in. And therefore we have this button here at the next position, and this button gives us the possibility to just evaluate our settings so far and get an idea of what features will actually be subject of our spying definition. And we see here in our feature browser, in the tab current section, which is this little green asterisk here, we get all the feature types, all the features which are subject to these definitions according to the setting we did already right now. So going back to the current, to the view members of our view in our feature browser, and let's continue with our spying definition. Right now we did the first tab already complete, so we did a name, we set up a trigger time, which is the point in time where this observation, the spying definition will just be checked. And now the next definition will be what actually should be checked at this time. So if there is some observation which will be modified or observation that will be created newly, the question is what should then be checked on this observation, and therefore we needed also to define the feature type of this feature we're going to check. So let's go over to the conditions tab, and here we will have quite some different possibilities. Again, you have this plus button on the bottom of the window, and this plus button gives you the possibility to add some different conditions. So the first conditions is called tautology. Well, if you have some experience with logical expressions, then you might have an idea what this means. Tautology is actually not a condition because the tautology always will be true. So if you have a condition which is called tautology, this means that every appearance of this trigger time here will result in an action which you defined afterwards. So every check will result in true, and you will just get every check as a point in time which raise some actions which we defined afterwards. This could be useful in some specific conditions, in some specific cases, but I would like to set up a different one. We have now 4 other possibilities. Here we have the possibility to just check if this new observation was marked as erroneous, and if this condition is set up, you have the possibility to check if an erroneous observation would raise an action, or if we uncheck this option, then every observation which is not erroneous will take an action. So you have both possibilities, but I again will delete this one because I also do not want this condition to be part of my definition. The next one would be a Boolean property. So all the Boolean properties which are available in your property structure of your features could be checked. Well, let's have a look if there are some. Well, we are not lucky. Our feature type meteorological situation does not have Boolean properties, and therefore we can't use this condition because there is no property available. Well, if there would have been some, I could have selected this by this menu here, and afterwards then define in that definition which value of this Boolean property should raise an action. So this could be if this value is false, like here it's unchecked, it's false. This value could be true, but also I have a third possibility. Also Boolean properties have actually 3 different possibilities of, well, let's call it value, because the third value is the unknown no value. There is no value given, the null value, and then I could define also this as a condition which would result in an action. I don't want this also. I remove this again, and now I have the possibility for a numeric property. Now let's have a look what numeric properties we have in our property structure of the meteorological situation, and we will see we have quite some here. We have the mean sea level pressure, we have the pressure and the air temperature, and then we have the precipitation. And so let's take the air temperature right now, and I would say if the air temperature would be between 30 and so I would just like to find that everything above would raise an action. So now it would make some maximum value which would never be reached, like I don't know, 1000 degrees. If this would be an air temperature, then 1000 degrees it's not realistic. So this would actually mean every temperature which is more than 30 degrees, including 30, would result in some action being raised. And then I would just give this condition and a description. Temperature is far too high, and I would also give it a color. Let's take it red here. And now I set up a condition which means that on some points in time, which I defined to be on creation time and on modification time of the observations in all the three features we are talking about, on this time we are going to check our conditions, and the condition is actually, is there some air temperature which has a value which is more than 30 degrees? Well, actually I defined the value being between 30 and 1000 degrees, but 1000 degrees is unrealistic in our case, let's say, and so actually this means more than 30 degrees, including 30 degrees, then please take some action. Before we go to the actions part, just let's have a look at the fifth option we have here, which is the quantity properties. So if there are some quantities in our property structure, we have again the possibility to select the quantity and then name a minimum and a maximum value. And then also we would have the possibility to give a unit. So this would mean if the quantity would be, for example, a distance, and the feature property has the distance in inches, the observations has the distance in inches, I nevertheless could ask here to set up a condition which would be concerning this distance. I would select the distance then here, would give some minimum and maximum value here, and nevertheless could use any unit. For example, I could of course use meters then also, and give my values here in meters, and if the inches according to meters reaches this area, this minimum and maximum value, this range, then the action would also be raised. So I can have observations in one unit and define the observation spying definition in another unit, because of course Redpex is able to convert units from one unit into another unit, of course. So, but we don't need it here because we don't have any quantity properties in our property structure. Our properties are all just numeric properties defined in our property structure. So now we have set up the general tab, and the condition is quite enough for us right now to test it. And at least, last but not least, we have to define the actions which should be raised if the condition has been met at our specific point in time, which is creation or modification of observations. Now let's have a look at which different actions could be raised by our spying definition. Well, we have three different actions which would be possible. First is a start alarm. Well, actually the alarm in Redpex does not mean that some bell is ringing or some light is flashing up. Alarm just means that we get a marker to our observation, and this marker gives us, for example, the possibility to create some presentation, some chart, or also some map view, and only include these observations which have the marker alarm, and so we can have some specific presentations which only shows observations which have an raised alarm, which means have some conditions being found to be true at some point in time. So there's quite a possibility to check the observations if they are in a specific range which should be okay, or if the range was exceeded. This alarm is not only a marker on observation, but also has the possibility to be checked. Checked means that some user of Redbacks has seen the alarm and also acknowledges this alarm, and therefore I have the option to give a certain time span in which this alarm has to be acknowledged. So the alarm raises at some time, at some specific point in time, and then, for example, I give 30 minutes time for the people, and now let's also define the people in this step. For example, Annelie and the manager of this system, both of them have to check this alarm, and they have 30 minutes time. Well, what happens if this 30 minutes passes by? Well, there's no problem. They still can check this alarm, so they can mark this alarm as being seen by the user, but the system will keep saved that the time was not, the acknowledgement was not within time. So the alarm was observed too late by these users then. I have also the possibility to pool the alarms, so if there are too much alarms in a specific time span, I can define that, for example, I don't know, let's say 60 seconds. If there are 3 alarms in 60 seconds, the system will only once send a message to that user, so they don't get too many messages. I can give this alarm now a title. So this would now be a temperature alarm. The temperature alarm would be sent to both users here, which are defined in the recipients, and they will get a temperature alarm, and the action which is suggested by the system is, because I defined it right now, check the cooling system, because the temperature has been rising too high. Then I have also the possibility to add a severity level. This means the level would be from 1 to 9. Severity 1 would be, well, it's not that important alarm, it's not that dangerous, and 10 would be really high severity. Let's give this now minor severity, for example, 6. Of course, this depends on the actual case we are talking about. What else could we define as an action for this spying definition? We have the possibility to recount some features. This is a subject of a different video, of a different session where we will talk about calculated features. It's not that interesting right now, but the next option, to send a message, of course, is interesting again, because the alarm itself, this action alarm, does not send any message. So the people would have to check would have to log on and check if they have some pending alarms. You see it right here, it's in the content and structure. There's some button which is called pending alarms, and there you would see all the alarms which have been raised for your user, which you had to acknowledge. But of course it would be interesting to send a message to these people, because if they're not on the system, they might miss an alarm, and if it's important, they should be informed by some method, and there we have the possibility to send a message. And this message now can be can have again some subject. It can have a body. So again, I would call let's use the text template, because there I should have the possibility to use the feature name, because in our case, if you remember, we have, where is my feature browser? Here it is. We have 3 different features who are subject of our spying definition right now. So I don't know yet which feature actually is the one which holds the observation which raised an alarm. So I will put in the subject prefix of my message the feature name, and then just write it here. And here again, also in the body, I would have the possibility to add some text template, but I used it also in the subject. Just right here, check the cooling system. Then again is the question, who will receive this message we are going to send here? And of course, in our case now it makes sense that the same people who will have the alarm also should be informed by this message right now. And again, I have the possibility to add some severity. This severity now has only 3 steps according to the possibilities the email protocol gives me, and so I have the possibility some informal, some warning, severity or critical. I would say warning would be the right one in our case right now. And then again I have the possibility to set up some pooling interval, which means that multiple alarms in a specific time span would be collected together and would result in only one message being sent. I will leave it blank right now because I'm fine with that so far. So now the question is, maybe a short outlook would go to the messaging system. This is subject of a different session also, but just have a quick view. You will see there is a message center button in the command ribbon, and this message center gives you the possibility to see all the messages you got in this system. So you have an inbox, an outbox, and a address box, and you also could define some user-defined folders to organize your messages. And you see here I already got some alarms. So this user I'm just using right now had already being sent some alarms, and now I have the possibility to read these messages, but again right now I only see these messages within the Redback system. So again I have to log on and open up this message center here to see the messages. And again, this is not actually what we would like to do. And so the next thing I have which I can set up, but this is to be set up by the user who receives the message. This is not done by the administrator, but every user has to do it for his own user, is to set up some forwarding rules. So I could set them up and could tell the system, please I would like every message which is between warning and critical, so the more the messages with a higher severity should be delivered by Twilio, which is SMS, and I can also filter the messages, of course, and only send messages, for example, which contains the text alarm. I will leave this blank so far. And also I could, of course, use email, and then all the messages which are sent to my user and have the severity warning or critical would be forwarded by email to the user's email address, which is saved with the user within the user profile. So far for the messaging. The message center I can close also again. So now we have set up this spying definition, we have saved it, it's activated. So let's close it and let's have a look what happens if we're going to change one observation of our spied features right here. I will just open any feature which is subject of spying, of observation, and just go to the observations, and we defined that the temperature which is higher than 30 degrees would raise an alarm. Now let's edit this one. Now I change this value, air temperature, to 35 degree, and now two things happen. If I press enter, the modified trigger will be raised, so this observation was modified, and now of course this goes to the database. And now our system will check there is some modification in a feature which now is subject of a spying definition, and then the conditions will be checked again against this observation, and the condition which is raise an alarm if it's higher than 30 degrees will be triggered, and of course now I should have an alarm according to this observation. Now let's have a quick look if this is the case. Content and structure ribbon gives me the possibility to open my pending alarms. And now I get all the alarms, and here we are. I got some temperature alarm which has severity 6, and I have a triggered alarm at 15:38 right now, and there is some due date also which is 16:38 because 16:08 because I gave half an hour time to check this this alarm right now, and I have also the feature name which raised the alarm, and the observation and sampling timestamp of the observation which was the one which had the value which raised the alarm. In the context menu I have the possibility to open the feature, to have a possibility to watch the measurements actually, and I can also acknowledge the alarm, so I have seen it and the system notice that I have seen this alarm, and therefore I get an extra window. I can acknowledge this alarm right now and given a comment checked, sorry, so checked everything is fine, and so this alarm now disappears again out of my pending alarms window. We can see here this alarm, which was raised before already, had already been due, so I have now still the possibility to acknowledge this, but the system will save that this alarm was overdue and was not checked within time. So now I have some possibilities left which I would like to show you, which is to switch on and off this spying definition. We have seen that the spying definition can be switched on and off within the definition itself. So if we go back again to the feature directives, we will see if we edit the spying definition here, there is some button which gives me the possibility to switch off. Right now it's off and now it's on again. You see the green color also. The whole spying definition which I have defined for this feature. But I also can switch off the spying definition for one feature only, so I can tell the system please leave the feature 05 untouched. So here I have the possibility the option which shows observation spying enabled. It's checked right now, you see it here. So if I check this option, you see now in the first place this icon gets a little red ball, a little red icon. And that actually means that observations of this feature now are not subject of the spying definition anymore. The other two features stay untouched, remain still as a subject of the spying definition, but this one in the middle will not be subject of the spying definition until again I use the context menu and check observation spying definition enabled, and then this red, I have to reload them, this red ball disappears, and now also this feature 05, MET05 will be subject of our spying definition. Then there is another place which is in a more global one. If you have a look to the global settings, you will find there is a chapter miscellaneous, and there you will find there is one option which is disable observation spying, and if you check this, of course it's only possible for administrators because it's part of the server administrator ribbon, but if you check this option, then the whole server will stop every observation spying. So there will be no observation spying if this option is checked anymore. Of course, you have to save this setting also. I will not do this right now, so I'm fine with this. So, of course, I would at least, or at last, introduce you to our manual. You will find there's a chapter Observation Spying in the Application Server chapter, and there you will find there's a lot of information, plenty of information concerning observation spying. I would just suggest make 1 or 2 examples, try it on your own. You will see it's not that complicated as it might look at a first glance. Thank you for watching.